Hi everyone, welcome back to another video. So in this video, I wanted to show you how I made some bucket hats for my kids using a pattern that I found online for free. Now, originally I was gonna buy a pattern, but it wasn't available in the stores, so I just took to the Google and found a free pattern. So there were some flaws in the pattern, but in the end, I was still able to make it work, and I wanted to show you the process so you can learn from my mistakes and hopefully feel inspired enough to make your own bucket hat, because not only are they trendy, they're pretty practical. So if you want to see how I made these bucket hats for my kids, then keep on watching. When I printed out the pattern, it came out on 3 separate sheets. Now, one of the sheets did have a square that serves as a measuring guide to make sure that the pattern came out the correct size. So I highly recommend doing that first, because the first time I printed it, it was a little bit off and I had to adjust the scale of the prints. And once I did that, everything was the correct size. So make sure you check that first. Once you're done with that, you can go ahead and tape all the pieces together, and then you can begin cutting out each piece of the pattern. For this project, you will need to cut out 2 sets of each of the pattern pieces. Now, this is going to create a lining and also give it some sturdiness, but in addition, it's also going to allow you to make this hat reversible. So make sure you pick some fun fabrics for both the outside and the inside, because the outside can become the inside, so you'll have 2 hats instead of just one. Something that I didn't know initially was that if you save the middle piece of the arc that forms the brim, it ends up being the perfect size for the top of the hat, so you won't have to cut out that piece later on. When it came down to the second fabric, I just followed the same steps. Now this time I did have that little trick up my sleeve, so I went ahead and saved that middle piece and then got to sewing. So as you can see there, I did use a lot of clips to keep the fabric together, and that's because I was working with curves. So that's something that I highly recommend when you're doing this project. Alright, now that I have both pieces, I wanted to show you something that's really important to do. So what you're going to want to do is this seam, so this is how it looks the right way, right? So on the inside, this seam right here, you want to make sure you press that inward, so it's actually going to be up in this area, and then you're going to run a straight stitch right through here, and on the top right over here, that seam, you're going to want to press it down. So you're going to press it so you can have it nice and flat like it is right here, and then you're going to run a straight seam right along there too. That's going to give it that nice shape, and it's going to make it nice and sturdy. And that's what I did on this one. So right here you can see that straight stitch right there, and look how nice and clean it makes it look. So there you go. You see how nice and clean that is? So I went ahead and you can see flipped it in and then flipped it down and ran that straight stitch right through there. So now that I have both pieces done, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna flip them inside out. Well, one inside out, and the other one I'm gonna leave like that. And then we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna tuck it in. So that way when you're looking at this one, you're looking at the inside of it, and right here you're looking at the inside, because then you're gonna run the stitch through here, and then you're gonna leave a small gap. I would say about this much, and then you're gonna flip it inside out, and then you're gonna run a stitch right along there. So let's go ahead and get this nice and taut, and then I can run it through the machine. When you're done sewing the 2 pieces together, you're going to use that gap that you left to pull that fabric that's on the inside to the outside. When it came time to close the gap that I had left on the hat, I went ahead and did so using my machine. Now, I did a straight stitch along the brim to do so, but then I added about 3 or 4 more to give it some style. Now check out the hats. Okay, so as you can see, everything turned out pretty well and the hats look cute. But there were some things that I had to adjust and tweak along the way. For example, this hat right here that Abigail was wearing was not intended for her, but I didn't realize as I was making the hat that the brim was gonna be so big on Austin. So once I made it and then took a moment to look at it, I knew that it was gonna be too big on Austin. So luckily it fit Abigail, so I stitched this part up so it can stay there, and then I added this flower, gave her a little blossom moment, and it worked out great. Now, when I went ahead to make Austin's hat, I did cut the pattern 2 inches from the bottom. So this is the amount that I took off, and that's how I got this smaller brim on his hat. Now, I left the top part the same because I figured he would grow into it, but I also added these little holes here using my button attachment on the sewing machine. So the first one didn't work out, but the second one did. Just goes to show, use the power of yet, don't give up. Because when I added the cord on there and gave it this little look, I was very happy with how it looked. So I hope that you enjoyed this video as well and that you liked how everything came out. If you did, give it a thumbs up, comment down below, let me know what your favorite hat was, and then subscribe to the channel so you can keep on watching more videos like this. And I'll catch you in the next one, okay? So, bye!